Should you pay off debt or invest for your future? It's quite the question. And this is especially true if you're just getting started with your money or you're trying to turn your financial situation around. Unfortunately, there isn't a right or wrong answer. It's very situation dependent, but there could be a way that you could accomplish both and do it as efficiently as possible. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Derek Coffey, and I'm the founder of FWP. And the reason that there isn't a right or wrong answer to this question is because of the what ifs. In finance, those what ifs are known as opportunity cost, or basically what you give up to do one thing over the other. In this situation, you could focus on paying down your debt, but you do this at the expense of growing your wealth over a long period of time. On the flip side of that, you could focus on investing, but you have to incur the interest expense on the debt that you have. With a little bit of planning, we may be able to put you in a position that you could do both and do so as effectively as you possibly can. That's what we're going to cover in today's video. Stay tuned. Now, before we can make any decisions on what we should do about paying off debt or investing for your future, we have to make sure you have a handle on your money. The unfortunate part about that is it means you have to have a budget. Now, you can choose any of the options that are available to you. You could use the envelope method. You could do a zero-based budget. You could do an all-cash budget. You could do the 50-30-20 that's popularized by Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. But I personally like a 70-15-15 budget. It's very similar to the 50-30-20 because you have money allotted for needs, you have money allotted for your wants, and then money allotted for your savings. But with the higher needs amount, it fits the cost of living in 2025. So how the 70-15-15 works is that 70% of your net income goes towards your needs. It's going to pay for your mortgage or your rent, your minimum debt payments, your utility bills, your phone bills, all of the things that you need to live. 15% of your net pay is going to be for you to spend however you wish. You work hard for your money, you should enjoy some of it. If you're trying to get your financial situation fixed or you're just getting started with the money that you're making, then having 15% allotted for you to enjoy is what's going to help you stay on track with your financial goals. The final 15% is going to be allotted for savings. That's the 15% we care about in this video. What we want to figure out is how much of that 15% needs to go into true savings, and then how much of it needs to be put towards paying off our debt. To figure out just how much of that 15% we want to put towards debt and our savings, there are three factors that have to be taken into consideration. Factor number one is your mental health. If you cannot stand the fact that you have debt hanging over your head, then the rest of this video is going to mean absolutely nothing to you. And the reason this is because you need to focus on getting rid of your debt. Your mental well-being is going to be severely impacted by your finances. If you owe a significant amount of money to anyone, whether it's a mortgage company, credit card company, whoever you owe money to, if you owe that money and it causes you so much stress that you can't sleep at night, then focus on paying down your debt. Now, if the stress of that debt doesn't bother you as much, we need to move on to factor number two. And factor number two is going to be your risk tolerance. Your risk tolerance is how much money you're willing to lose if you invest. If you are willing to invest in a way that's going to return maybe 6, 7, 8%, then it's probably going to be a good idea to make the minimum payments on your low interest debt and invest the rest. But if you're only going to invest in a way that might net you 2, 3, or 4%, pretty much anything that's not going to do better than a CD at the bank, then it does you no good to worry about investing. You should focus on paying off the debt and saving on that interest expense. The final factor we have to take into account are the interest rates. If you're paying 8% or more on any of your debt, then focus on getting rid of that debt first. Don't worry about investing. And the reason this is because if you invested 100% into the S&P 500, it has historically returned about 10% per year, and that's with dividends reinvested. If we didn't have those dividends, then you're only going to receive about 8% each year. So if you have debt that has an interest rate of 8% or more, you need to focus on getting rid of that first before you start trying to invest elsewhere, because the chances of you making more than that higher interest rate are very slim. So if you have a good handle on your money and the three factors that we just went over still has you wanting to invest for your future, then the easiest way for you to understand what we're trying to accomplish is by the numbers. The benefit to just paying the minimum on your debt and then investing the rest is in what is known as the spread. And the spread is the difference between the interest rate that you expect to receive by investing and the interest rate you're paying on your debt. So if we assume that we have an individual that purchased a home in 2020, and I know I'm reaching back in the archives, it was a different world for real estate back then. But if we assume that the individual purchased the home in 2020 and they paid $350,000, they locked in a 3.5% APR, then their monthly payment would be $1,571. Now, with this individual's budget, we're going to assume that they have $500 left over each month to put towards their savings. Now, they're at a crossroads. They could either add to their minimum mortgage payment to pay the house off sooner, or they could invest it for their future. If they were to add the $500 to their minimum payments, they would pay their home off in approximately 20 years, and it's going to save them about $83,000 in interest. Now, since we're looking at both of these scenarios over a 30-year time frame, we're going to assume that from year 20 through year 30, they're going to take all $2,071 of that and they're going to invest it. If they invest it in a way that's going to get them roughly 7% per year, then at the end of that 30-year time frame, they're going to have $344,000 saved. Now, if we add to that the $83,000 that they saved on interest, their net benefit by paying that $500 additional dollars towards their mortgage is $427,000. Now, the alternative is to just pay the minimum and then invest the $500. So over that same 30-year time frame, our individual is going to take the $500 and they're going to invest it every single month. Assuming they still get the same 7% rate of return, they're going to have $255,000 saved in 20 years. They're still going to have the mortgage. They're going to still bear the full brunt of that 3.5% interest rate, but they still have $255,000 saved. Now, over the next 10 years, they're still going to invest the $500 a month. They're still going to get the 7% rate of return. And then at the end of this 30-year time frame, they have $588,000 saved and a fully paid off house. So the net benefit of investing the $500 a month is $588,000. If we take that $588,000 and subtract from it the net benefit of paying the home off early, there's a $161,000 difference. That is the value of the spread. Now, what we have to keep in mind is most people's debt situation isn't this clean. They're probably going to have a car loan or two. They're probably going to have a credit card or two or three or four that they owe money on. And the interest rates on those things are much higher than 3.5%. So if you're in a situation like that, we need to build a plan that way you can accomplish both. So this plan that I'm talking about is what I like to call the optimal order of saving. Now, this is going to be situation dependent. It's not going to be optimal for all of you, but for most of middle America, this pyramid that you see on your screen is going to be an optimal way for you to save your money and potentially pay down debt at the same time. Level number 1 is all about your emergency fund. We want to make sure that you have cash sitting aside in the bank in case an emergency arises. This emergency fund can be calculated a number of different ways. There are many rules of thumb, but I am a fan of having $1,000 per person in your household sitting in cash. So if it's just you, it's $1,000. You have $1,000 sitting aside, that's going to cover most immediate emergencies. Once you have that $1,000 sitting there, we move on to step 2. If you're married, it's $2,000. And then if you have kids, we're going to add $1,000 for each of them as well. But once you have that $1,000 per person in your household set aside, we're going to move on to getting the match. If you work for a company that offers a 401k, then you need to be investing enough money to receive any match that they offer. Now, the match could be dollar for dollar, it could be 50 cents on the dollar, but regardless of how it's structured, if you're not getting the match, you're leaving money on the table. It's free money. They expect you to do everything you can for them. You may as well get everything you can out of them. So once you're getting the match, now we're going to move on to paying off your high interest debt. High interest debt in this case, at least for the people that I work with, is anything over 8%. The reason this is because even if you invest 100% in stocks, like I'd mentioned earlier, you're not guaranteed anything, but on average, you're going to get somewhere around 8, maybe 10%. But again, it's not guaranteed. So with that being the case, instead of investing another dollar, we need to make sure we're putting it towards that high interest debt. What you need to do is take all of the debt that you have that's over 8% and sort it by balance. And then snowball your payments, starting with the smallest balance, until you've paid all of that high interest debt off. Once you've paid off all of your high interest rate debt, we're going to move on to the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is very similar to your 401k, except there are some differences. With your 401k, you put money in on a pre-tax basis, meaning you get to save on income taxes when you contribute the money to the 401k. With the Roth IRA, you've already paid taxes on that money, so you're putting it in on an after-tax basis. What this allows you to do is create a source of tax-free income in retirement once you reach 59 and a half. If you're putting all of your money into a 401k, at some point you're going to have to take that money out, and all of the money you receive is going to be taxed. So by just getting the match and then putting more into the Roth IRA, it allows you to create some tax diversity within your plan. Now, if you're maxing out the Roth IRA and you still want to save more, then consider doing a health savings account. The health savings account is kind of the hidden gem of retirement planning, and the reason this is because the triple tax-free advantage of the HSA. You get to put money in on a pre-tax basis, you get to let the money grow on a tax-free basis, and then if you take the money out for a qualified medical expense, you do so on a tax-free basis. If you've filled up the HSA and you still want to save more, the next step is maxing your 401k. Now, I know I stated earlier we're creating a taxable source of income in retirement, but if you have enough money to save and you want to maximize that savings, then focus on maximizing the 401k. And then if you max the 401k, then focus on paying off the rest of your debt. Get rid of it. All of that extra money you have, regardless of the interest rate, add it to the minimum payments of the rest of your debt and get rid of it. Now, for a lot of you, you may not make it past the Roth IRA, and that's perfectly fine. As long as you have money set aside in the bank, as long as you're getting the match, as long as you've gotten rid of the 8% interest rates and you're putting money into a Roth, then you can pay the interest on the remaining debt because you're still going to come out ahead, hopefully. But regardless of your situation, you want to make sure that you're accomplishing both of these tasks as efficiently as possible. By following this optimal order of saving, you put yourself in a position to do so. Ultimately, the decision to pay down debt or invest for your future is going to be all up to you. If the stress of having debt hanging over your head just messes with you and it doesn't allow you to live a very fulfilling life, then focus on getting rid of the debt. No amount of money that you could have saved is going to make you feel better mentally than getting rid of the debt. Now, if the mental stress of having debt just doesn't affect you and you're fine making the minimum payments, then figure out a way to make money on the spread. Invest for your future, make those minimum payments, and as long as you're coming out ahead with your investments, then you've made the right decision. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. If this video or any of the other videos that I've put out has provided you value, then hit that subscribe button. If you know someone at this crossroads where they're not sure if they want to pay off debt or invest for their future, then send this video to them. Maybe it'll help them understand what the right decision for them is going to be. But I thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon.